We always say you can have the greatest idea, guaranteed somebody else has got it and they're already working on it,
Yeah.
and you got to watch out because if you're relying on somebody else's platform or whatever, they could add whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
and or hopefully they buy you out.
Welcome to the Huckaleros podcast with special guest Jon Brennan of Developer Squad.
Welcome to Huckaleros. I'm here with Jon Brennan, my cousin, business partner, and brother, one of my best friends in the world. And
Hello, Huckalero.
This is Huckaleros. We're recording at the world famous Next Core Studios in downtown Rochester. Jon's joined us from Buffalo, and thanks for coming in. This is a new podcast. Probably, I'll be dragging you on here more than once, I imagine. We have some battle stories and some good triumphs and fails in the past almost 20 years that we've been working together in one way or another. And I think it's interesting to talk about like the Huckaleros name. Just had Connor on from Lock Identity, who he actually, because I was telling him when I was coming up with the names, he was like, what's Huckaleros? And he liked the Too Dumb to Quit, which we'll touch on in a minute. But I know your entrepreneurial journey started before mine, and you were working at Ingram Micro. And talk a little bit about the steps you took to move out on your own from being at like a large enterprise.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it was I guess it's one of those instances where you're in the moment, so you don't really realize how profound a decision it is. Because I was a senior manager at a really big company and was doing well. No need to move on, but I had this opportunity pop up to co-own a business down in Baltimore. Came with some cash incentive, and so I called my father just to get because I was like, I know he's gonna say, "What are you an idiot?" Like,
shout out
Are
SJB.
you even considering that? You got 3 little kids, what are you doing? So I call him up, and he's like, "Wow, you're young. That sounds like a good opportunity." I'm like, "What?" So,
wow.
After some more thought and obviously talking with the wife, I was like, I'm gonna make the journey. And like with any journey, there's things you just don't know when at the time,
You had 3 young daughters.
Yeah. Well, and it's a business in another state. If it was also a business that was high in the red, like it was in trouble. So it was like,
if I recall correctly, that wasn't something that was really that they disclosed the full picture.
No.
It's like, we got to get this guy in here to fix some of this. Right, like
to me.
Yeah. So new situation and the business in the red. Okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those holy crap moments. But I had already jumped in with both feet, so I made it work. And it's just one of those things. I think with anything in life, you just forge forward and you hit these obstacles, and 2 sides of the coin. You can just get discouraged or hung up on it, or look for the other side of the coin, which is like, okay, I got to pivot, I got to make a change, I got to do this, and it's been pretty much my life ever since.
Yeah, and I like
did that too, right?
That's why they're Huckaleros, right?
Yeah, that is the definition of a Huckalero.
Yeah, the Too Dumb to Quit ethos, that mentality of entrepreneurs. I think exploring this and speaking with people who have these interesting stories, and outside of entrepreneurs, I'm saying that like it's just in entrepreneurs, but in terms of that leap, that jump, and the work that you were doing there was pretty interesting. You got top secret clearance, or certain 3-letter agency government contracting work.
Oh yeah,
and
some high end stuff. It was cool. It was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
It was also another thing where I was getting into stuff that wasn't in my wheelhouse either, and that just didn't stop me. You find the right people, you do the things you originally was asked to come on to help run a training company. That's how
I remember that. I remember that point, and you were working on some big like enterprise deal, like I won't mention name, but household names, right? Like that you were doing some corporate training for them. You had bids in, and I guess if you just talk a little bit about that, like that process where you just to put that proposal together, and I mean, wasn't it like just 6 figures you guys had into it before you even
we weren't that high into it, but
okay,
we were heavily invested in the opportunity, and we were one of a few hand selected to through multiple revisions and interviews, and we went in the last. I knew I nailed it. When you do something and you're just like,
we
I'm
got
hitting
that
on all cylinders. I got this deal. Walked away. I'm even getting chills thinking about it. I was like walking away going, okay. And it was a definitely a multi-million-dollar opportunity for the company. And they called me a couple days later and said, oh, you guys are a top choice, but we have this new person come on, and they want you and this other company to run a 90-day beta of your product, so we can finalize who we're going to go with. And that's at our cost. I'm like, wait, you want me to spend, I was like, did the math. I'm like, we spent $100,000 to run a beta for something that I don't think we're even, we're a 50-50 shot. Right. I also found out this other person that came on board was associated with another company.
Well, and that's how a lot of those deals work. Like that new person coming in at that moment where you'd already, the deal was done, and it was like, oh, well, this new person's onboarding, and they're bringing, or he or she is bringing their preferred vendor, and all of a sudden the terms of the deal change, and you feel like you got the rug pulled out from you.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
For sure. And then, unfortunately, I had to pull out the rug from underneath one of our partners that we partnered up with on the opportunity.
Yeah.
He was pissed. Rightly so. But I mean, he wasn't going to be the one footing the bill for the demo either. So the beta.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's, you go through that opportunities and it's lessons learned, but that's something that was out of your control. It happens. It happens. It can happen any moment when you're working on a deal, no matter how big or small. The stuff you can only control what you can control, and in that you had the best. You put the best out there, and circumstances that you couldn't change or adjust. Yeah, you just got to move on. You got to move on.
Exactly. You always think about, and you bring it up today. I'm thinking back because it pops in my head. What would have happened if I went through it? And bit the bullet and did it.
Yeah.
But you can't. You can do all the what ifs in the world. It doesn't help you do anything. So
I think that's something on that journey is being able to stand behind the choices you make and the decisions, right or wrong. I think there's,
dude, better than anybody. Two of us, we learn better from our mistakes than our
successes,
right?
Yeah.
So, the big thing is learning from it.
Learn from it, and hopefully imparting some wisdom internally, or it's also I think it's, and that kind of goes into like the fun calling it like Huckaleros, and it's kind of like a multi-term. It can mean a lot of different things, and you can interswapped it for, whatever it is at that moment. So going through that part of the journey and being able to come out unscathed and learning from it. Well, I guess maybe not completely unscathed, as it sucks.
The battle scars, right?
The battle scars, but you keep on moving. I think that's a mentality, is that when you're, and again, young family, you were traveling, you were flying out to Baltimore every week from Buffalo back and forth. That was just a major
out Monday,
a major drain.
Friday.
Yeah, that's a grind. That is a grind. So it's like you gotta really but it's great. It's a good experience when you learn from it, and some of the battle stories, and that's why, like, we have so many. And I think when we started working together, you
came from a corporate environment yourself.
Came from corporate. So. Yeah, it was smart, but and kind of some of those steps along the way were really great experiences. And you have those wins, losses. I was doing really well for myself. It wasn't any was making a nice career, but I started working at company. That's where friend of the pod, I met Fran at Canoodle, CVAST, and that's where the Tuned Up to Quit. Shout out Ken Keating. That's was like the mantra. We're talking about it with Fran. But that's also being at that place and time. It's where we started hanging a little bit more, and we started brainstorming ideas. We're like, hey, let's do these things and create a company. And this is coming from I was coming from, it was my first foray to it, and we had a lot of different implementations. I mean, think about the one that I'm really interested in talking about, because I think it's a fun one, was, and this is like aging ourselves, but MySpace was still like a big thing. If you don't know what MySpace is, look it up on the time machine. It was pre-Facebook. It was like the premier social network, and it was much different than Facebook, as you could, they would just let you insert all these kinds of code and have like this really personalized profile. You could embed, I mean, YouTube was still really young. You could embed YouTube videos, and they had all these cottage industry sites where you could grab snippets of code and put like little characters or sparkling things. You had a really personalized experience on that site. And I know like Fox bought it, 20th Century Fox bought it, right? And then as that was coming, Facebook was evolving, and we had a lot of work done with Facebook because we were early there. But we saw on a particular feature of MySpace was called a bulletin board, and I noticed this behavior that was happening on there, where people were like copying and pasting surveys and then filling them out and sharing them with their friends. And it was just, it was that zeitgeist at the time where there was like, all these different, what kind of car, maybe evolved into those BuzzFeed quizzes, or they were on social over the years in different aspects. But it was just like fun little quizzes, or this is about me, these are my favorite movies, this is my whatever, and people were sharing them. And that was in a very it was like a habit. It was a habit that people had. So we decided to create this survey software, because you could build apps for MySpace at the time as a third party. So, and us, again, like not knowing anything, we found developer, And I mean, can you talk about that part of like building it? Because I mean, conceptually I had it, and I know we were like wireframing it and stuff, but
Yeah,
we were like hiring contractor to do it, right?
yeah. We outsourced it to a guy, um, and he had done a classic mistake. It's like a Fibonacci kind of setup with nested loops, and so he kind he did it incorrectly. So unbeknownst to us, because I remember we threw that out there, and the sucker was growing like crazy.
It was
People
going
were
viral.
sharing it. It was viral. It was so exciting. But what it was doing was it was building on itself and just filling up
Every new
bases.
person was adding to the code base, and it was
Just
essentially like an infinite
storage.
loop, like you're saying that.
Between
And
the storage and the queries, yeah, it took down an entire server farm.
it took down an entire server farm. But I remember that moment where I think we were, one of our early clients back then was, and still to this day, shout out Buffalo City Mission. We were I think we were on site there, and it was a weekend, like we were doing some kind of thing, and I remember just kept on like refreshing the app admin, and like every time I refresh it was like numbers were just going. It was like that hockey stick growth that you see, and it's like, yeah, this is going, like, oh, this is it, like we have a smash hit on our hands here.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just like it's not loading anymore, and because of that error that the programmer that we hired to dev for us had that infinite loop, the more people who added it was like immediate like tech debt, like it was adding exponential calls to the database, and so the more people that added it, the more strain it was putting on all the servers essentially. And
I don't think we were up for more than 48 hours or something.
48 hours, but it was going up, at the rate, it was like tens of thousands. It was approaching like 100,000 users, and it had no short. It was the rate of growth was accelerating because it had that network effect. Is that the more people that used it, that was like the best thing. And if you ever see that, I think as an entrepreneur, where you're like this behavior that someone's doing, and you'd be like, oh, we can just insert this, make it better, because the experience was you're copy and pasting it and then having to fill it out, and then you're sharing it. We had it so you didn't have to do that. It was just like one click, you fill it in, and then you share it. And then once people started adopting that, they're like, oh, I'll just do that too, instead of copy and paste it. So it was like the mere fact of people using it was the trigger to it spreading virally. And so that was like crushing, because we couldn't really fix it at that point. It was really and was down for a while, and I don't think it was just something where it was like, oh, it kind of like spent, right?
Yeah, we lost the moment,
we lost that moment.
Yeah, because nobody's going to use it again. If it's not working, they move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
that's like,
and we couldn't confidently fix it in a reasonable amount of time. And talk about like lesson learned on if you're hiring someone to code or using AI in today's age. If you're using Claude Code, maybe you want to have a real pro check your work. But I think, the other side of that, which I always thought was interesting, was where we were hosting it was with our IT guys, and a good friend who we just lost recently, Rob, and RIP Rob, shout out, the guy was tremendous. Taken too soon from us, but we were just starting a relationship. That'll be another episode where we were building Social Voter, I think, on using the Dolphin dating software or whatever that he had these servers set up to host it, and he was just a sharp technical IT guy. So we knew, like, we had the good IT guy. We just have the programmer at that moment, but he had like a bunch of Ty Lopez. This is before Ty Lopez was in the garage with his Ferrari and selling. These were his sites at the time, and so we took out all of his websites. So I remember Rob's calling us, Ty was calling him, like, what are these guys doing? And so that was kind of a wild collateral damage token thing that happened as well too.
Yeah, classic example of where you can, at the moment it was like a holy shit, but you look back on it, it's something you can laugh about.
I laugh at it. There's a space around it, and it was kind of I remember it being like kind of a dicey weekend because we had that, and then we had, you guys took out all these sites.
What's interesting is, it's 20 years ago, I think now, maybe
close to it.
There's things in place now that wouldn't even happen. There's safeguards and guardrails, but it's the early Wild West days.
Yeah. And I remember that earned us, like, Rob was like, oh yeah, Ty wants to talk to you guys because he's trying to build some like viral app on Facebook. So I remember, I think I had like a short brief meeting with him about that. That didn't go anywhere. And then I remember seeing him probably not too long later, but I'm like, we know that guy. Like, he was all over YouTube, like buying ads and stuff like that. And what a wild type experience that was. And I think, just one notch in a journey where you had some of those things that were like really in the moment could have been massive, and just have that mentality where you're too done, like, they didn't really stop us that much. Or like, you're like mourned it for maybe a day, or like, and you just like had so many other things. We had so many other things going on. It was like, you didn't have even time to like really think about it. But to your point from earlier is like, lesson learned. Never had that happen again.
Yep.
With anything that we've coded over the years with, the company we had around that time was called Noobis, Noobis. And I was just joking, we were doing some prep for this. I was like, that's funny. Noobis was like new business at that moment in time. Like, it was 2007, 2008, right? Everything was Web 2.0 and we were like heading into the social era. This is where people were, it wasn't just static websites and the, people doing BBS and forums. It was like that stuff was coming out where you were like, everybody was participating in the web as Web 2.0. And we're like, we need this cool Web 2.0 name. So we were Noobis in that period.
Remember how we got that domain?
Oh yeah. That was somebody was holding on to it. It was like a professor.
No, it's a weird story because we're obviously you want to get the domain to match your business name, and somebody was owned that. And looking at who is information, it was the paper I used to deliver as a young boy. I was
in Newburgh, New York.
Yeah, Newburgh.
That's right. It was the newspaper.
So, just for the heck of it, we put out, hey, you guys using these domains? Can we have them? Can we buy them off of you? They actually gave it to us. We just had to pay the transfer fee. They didn't
pay the transfer fee
for it. And they had not only Nubis, but some of the misspellings too.
Yeah.
I bought them and just never never used
I
it.
remember that, and we told them the story of how random it was that you were a paper carrier when you were a kid. How talk about just pure coincidence.
Crazy.
And I remember the guy emailed me after we like put up the website first, and he was like, I didn't realize you guys were using it for commercial. I don't know what we did or didn't disclose, but I remember I got like a kind of like an angry email. He's like, oh, I wouldn't have given it to you guys if I had known you were like using it for business. It's like, well, I don't know exactly what he thought we were going to use it for.
Maybe he was looking for, I would have charged you. Or
yeah, maybe we would have like charged us or something. Maybe he thought you were just like, maybe you realized it was like so many years ago that you were a paper boy. He's maybe thinking it was like, oh, this is like last year. Maybe there's some like real wild disconnect in the timing of it. But yeah, I remember getting an email from him saying, yeah, if we had known, or if I had known, I wouldn't have given them to you if this is what you're doing with those. And then that was that. And yeah, I know. And you talk about being like lean, you and I like put everything into the business in like several ways financially, structurally is our life. And that's that too dumb to quit mentality. And we really had to kind of like find our way even to Nubis, and a couple different iterations, different business partners along the way into that, and until you really kind of hone in on that next wave, which was Facebook. We had some of the we took that early MySpace experience. We saw everybody was getting over into Facebook, and in that moment, it was interesting to me too, because we had we were throwing out like these little apps that were some of the first run on Facebook.
Yeah.
And
we remember Social Inner Circle.
I feel like we could,
great example.
Yeah, explain that, because I think that was like a really cool one that just was a little bit before its time.
I mean, we still encounter this today. I mean, anybody listening, building stuff, they're going to have the same issue. Is you come up with you see a need, a pain point. And in this case, Facebook, it was very difficult to follow your friends.
The algorithm was, even at that point, it's already feeding you stuff that.
Yeah, so we created Social Inner Circle, and you could tag certain friends of yours, and it would just feed you anything that they were posting.
It was emailed. Like, you could choose if you wanted a text message, real time, for your friends that you wanted to get updates from. And I think it was that was did we have a pay tier of it where it was like, okay, you get five friends for free, but if you want text messages, it costs something. And
it was like I think we were charging $25
for the year or something. It was, and I think it was, we were given, it was a real healthy freemium, if I recall correct. But it was cool, because even at that moment where it was still, Facebook was giving that algorithm where you necessarily were trying to follow your friends, or maybe you just didn't go on Facebook as much. I know that was something that being on Facebook so much, it was like I kind of got averse to it. Like, and we were running people's social media pages, and doing, at that point, we were doing a lot of custom apps for brands, and had some they had the pages where you could embed different really interactive things, and we did some pretty unique ones there. But I remember in doing that, and like being on all these accounts all day, every day, and doing the brand voice for this account, and then switching it to here, and then also just dealing with kind of the crap that people post, and having to just live in that. I think by 2013, I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So that's where long tangent, but that's where the social inner circle was. I would just get a digest like daily of anybody that I really needed to follow or
People
that I
you want to
wanted
keep in
updates.
touch with, and
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, here's a daily email digest of any post, and it was like, oh, okay, it was personalized to you. You could go in and edit it, and that was great. But I think over time the algorithm won, and it's like you don't even realize
well,
who
yeah,
you're
I mean,
friends with anymore in there.
right, you could. There were some features we had that Facebook added that they didn't have before,
Yeah,
so it kind of killed the virility
it
of our
killed.
app.
It started to do that, and
And
then
that's the lesson is like, anything anybody gets into, and we've run across it over and over again. You come up with an idea. We always say, you can have the greatest idea, guaranteed somebody else has got it and they're already working on it.
yeah,
And, you got to watch out, because if you're relying on somebody else's platform or, whatever, they could add whatever you're doing,
yeah.
and or hopefully they buy you out. That would be better.
Well, that's what we were
Right?
thinking. I
But,
mean, I know we'll
but
get into it. We'll get
that's
into it. We have
user
some other
growth,
ones
right?
that are
That,
were in
that's
that
what
vein.
we
Yeah,
always said is, if you're going to build something to work off of somebody else's, get a ton of users, because then you become an acquisition target instead of because they want the users. Whereas if you
yes,
don't have the
yeah.
users and
Want
it's just
that? Well,
functionality,
and I
it
think
just
they want
doesn't.
that. That's value that you're creating time spent on their platform, which in Facebook, and well, now it's Meta. Back then it was just they even bought Instagram at that point, and but that was their hook was the more people we get spending the more time, the more ads we can sell, and the more volume you can do there, and that's how they built. I mean, they built a wonderful little ad business off that and the
Well, I mean,
social graph.
to your point, and you were the. I remember when they bought Instagram.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, I remember that.
and I think it was like $2 billion at the time or something.
It was 1 or 2 billion or
And I
something.
said, to you, go, why are they spending? They could probably,
No,
they
I
have
remember we were getting like
programmers. They could
arguments
probably
with your
build
brother
this.
over it, and I would like you guys
And
were
you're
like,
like, no,
no,
dude,
that's
it's
so
the users.
crazy, so crazy. There's no value, and I was like, no, because it was just one of those. It's like you saw it's like they're gonna make their money back over time. Like it was on the mobile phone. They had the filters, and it was just rapidly going. And no, I remember I would hit you guys up like, oh, they surpassed like 10 million revenue, and like, and that's like that Brennan mentality where you're stubborn, like, I still shouldn't have bought it. Rightfully
No,
so. It's like, and
that
that's
was a great lesson for me. I mean, it just goes to show you, like, you think. My first thought was, if you have $2 billion to spend, and you already have a company that has tons of programmers, why don't you just build it yourself? You could probably build it in no time.
yeah.
You're going to spend all this time integrating, but as you pointed out, the value wasn't anything but,
The
we have all these
technology.
users and the tech. It was already going. I was already taking off.
It
So
was the velocity of user
yeah,
acquisition. I think Zuckerberg and team saw it as a
no,
threat
smart.
to their core product, and they're like,
Sure.
"Well, we better own that, and we can better support it." I mean, there's history like Google buying YouTube,
Right.
right?
Who
Is
had
like there's
who had
seed value.
Threads that failed? Who
Oh,
tried that?
I mean, there's been a
Threads?
couple. Like remember
Yeah.
like Bebo and just all these like there's a whole graveyard of internet greats that
Yeah.
had all these um
One of the original Netscape.
Netscape. Yeah. The, wild. Do you remember there's one other one that I think it was interesting that kind of popped in my head right now that we did on Facebook, and it was actually like it was a really big deal, and it was I think it was innovative at the time, even though it was kind of cheesy. Super Moms. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. The whole blog series.
It was all woven. It was for Clorox, and I don't think you'd
I
find.
mean, it was an influencer program essentially
Well,
back
I
in
would
the
even
day,
say
right?
it was a melodramatic soap opera where they had A-list actresses performing these super mom roles, like they were superheroes. And I guess I think it was more P&G. I think it was a Procter and Gamble, and we were working on with one of the agencies that we partner with, and we integrated they were doing all of the creative and the doing the shoots. I mean, I think it was, if I'm name dropping, forgive me, but because it wasn't like just any, it was like real, like Vivica A. Fox, I believe, was in it. Joey Lauren Adams, like at the time, like real names that were doing this kind of one-off. It was just on Facebook that were, they each, I remember we had to create, like, each super mom had their own profile, and we were promoting their persona, their arc, their character arc, their video stories, and as they were, navigating the mom life, they're using all the Procter and Gamble products on the set, right? It's like real heavy product placement. And talk about like brands at that moment, like going into social, especially like it was a really quick time period where we would be trying to sell like agency or company, or they're like Facebook, like what the hell do I want to be on Facebook for? And then within a year, it was like, oh, it was like all this money was going into Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need all these customizations and yada yada yada.
But that's a good example where then Facebook made it easier for businesses to do it on their own. So, it kind of phased out.
Yeah, and I think the whole at that moment, I mean, talk about the evolution of Facebook. You used to be able to buy likes. That was the metric, right? It was, you're buying ads, you're buying following for your brand page, which was propped up, and then so you could reach people. So brands would have millions of likes, and then they could post and essentially reach those people that they paid to acquire, right? And then over time, it was like, well, no, now you have the boosted post, and we're not going to show it to everyone. We can't just show it to everyone that you paid for, right? It's just, it shows you like the evolve and their comeuppance of scale. And then they have the eyeballs, it's sticky, people are hanging out, and kind of do whatever they want.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool times.
Yeah, it was really interesting to be a part of that trajectory, and working with some really interesting people along the way, and
bringing back the memory of Fourth Wall. Remember
Fourth Wall Studio? Yeah, that was a really cool one.
Where we set it up so that it would take somebody's favorite book or whatever or movie, and it would be integrated into the video. It was really cool.
Yeah, and that had like known actors in it as well too.
Yeah.
And I remember they shot it with like green screen. They're like, oh, look at this moron. And they were like, hold up a frame with like the green screen, and it would like hold up one of your top 5 friends or whatever. So it was like personalized experience to you. And that was the hype video, because their product was interesting with their fourth wall. They were like breaking the fourth wall. So you would go through their experiences. I don't even think the full thing, maybe it was on Facebook, I don't remember, but I know Dave, shout out Dave up in Toronto, he helped us. Like,
were we using Flash back then?
That was done in Flash. That's how Adobe Flash. That was probably like one of the last hurrahs and like excellent uses of Flash on Facebook. Before I don't think after a while you couldn't even embed it on there anymore. They wouldn't allow it.
Right.
So, but that was wild. That was a promo for their interactive shows. And I remember it's like when you would watch it, they would like send you text messages, or, you know, the phone would ring and you'd be like part of the story. It was really like, it was really interesting at the time. And I think, again, it's just like one of those things, is like people taking their shot at, you know, creating, and we had many more that will, you know, we could save those for another day, but talk about like that moment in time. And, you know, even in that short journey of watching Facebook grow, getting a lot of, you know, core business at that time, you know, and a lot of core business that wasn't based where we were, you know, we were working remotely, we were building a team remotely, development staff, overseas. Some of them are still with us today from that moment, or close to it, you know? So it's, wild and crazy times. Wild and crazy times. Do you think there was any, you know, in that early stages, especially, you know, you had a lot at stake and a lot of responsibilities. Did you have that Huckalero, too dumb to quit, like, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here? Did you ever have that kind of moment for yourself that you had to, you know, go through, or anything kind of like ring a bell?
Yeah, I mean, I think it pops up here and there. Anything can trigger it. You know, I'm getting older now, and I know a lot of people I worked at when I worked in the corporate world. I'm seeing they're all retiring. You know, not that I would ever retire anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Thought, oh wow, you know, I would have probably been retiring and with a nice, you know, chunk of change or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know about you. I have no regrets. I just
No.
You know, if you don't have them planned, you should get Miner to come on too. I was just talking.
Yeah, no, I absolutely got a couple. Some of those are tied to Facebook as well, and we've had some really great journeys. And talk about like too dumb to quit. It's like,
I mean,
we have
we've done a few things with him. And I was talking to him, I think last week or whatever, and we were reminiscing about some of those projects. And you know, they were, I'd be, by the definition, they were failures, in sense that, you know, there were business ideas that never came to full fruition monetarily.
right.
But I was telling, when I look back at those things, to me, it's like looking back on a vacation. Like you did all these cool things. You had all these good times. I mean, vacation, you spend money, right? You don't earn money. So,
That's true. That's true. That's a good way to look at it. If you have fond memories of vacation, fond memories of the.
We're here to not like die with billions of dollars. We're here to live life and do. I think that's the definition. Your Huckalero is.
I think it'd be a lot of different things. Like, you know what? I'll take the $1 billion though. You know, that's because I could deal with that, and I'll still have failures. I'll just have bigger failures. You know,
can, start up your own space program to compete with the other guys.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. I'll just like, or you know, like uploading consciousness or whatever you can, whatever you have your frozen head with next to Disney.
You think like the entrepreneur thing almost turns into sort of a dopamine thing, like you know, you got to keep
yeah. I think you have those moments, and you know, it's come up when we were recording earlier that some of those highs and lows come in the course of the same day, the same hour. Like something's like, oh man, that's like great news. Like you get great news from a client, or like you have this huge win, and then something, the next email is like a cancellation, or something got screwed up, and it happens, right? but it's like those ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, you just kind of gotta roll with it. And I think, I don't think this is different than, anything you're doing in life, is that you become more seasoned at it, and more thick skin, where it's just like, okay, this is how it goes. You let it roll off, and that's too dumb to quit. That's the Huckaleros ethos, maybe. But I will say, uh, I do welcome the B, or now, trillions is the new billions. You got to be, if you're not aiming for trillions. I mean, with inflation, man, these billionaires are gonna have it rough.
Yeah. But I mean, could you ever go back to the corporate world?
I don't think I don't think, even if I had to, I don't think I would be a good fit. It's I don't know how long I would last, either me leaving myself, or being asked to leave. Yeah, I when you have this autonomy, and you can, working a lot, but you're still able to do it for yourself. That's something that is earned. And I think once you get a taste of that, and it can be any business, it can be anything. Once you're doing it for yourself, I'm not sure if you really are that Huckalero, you're too dumb to quit. I don't think you're going back, or if you do, it's like, it's
That was it for me. I mean, my first big venture was that Baltimore business, and yeah, I'm sure you remember. I got screwed over by the partners, and
yeah. Talk about, like, I mean, that's a
it was
too
it
dumb to
was a
quit moment,
major
man.
deal. Like I actually ended up going bankrupt. I mean, that's
Yeah,
how significant it was, and
that was huge. Like, I mean, talk about financial devastation, and a big multi-million-dollar operation that it was, and there's damage done from that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Personally, but you had a lot of partners, people, and that's something that, like, freaking stings, man. That's rough.
Yeah, what's interesting looking back, the biggest sting was more second guessing yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
It, all the other stuff is just circumstances, but you're like, was it something I did? What, you're like going through that mental anguish of, you know,
Replaying it,
yeah, it's like, what the,
ruminating on it.
yeah. So, but at the same time, I mean, back to your other point is, I, I, I could have easily decided, okay, I'm going back into the corporate world. I mean, I have the credentials, could easily get a job somewhere, but
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah. No,
no,
that
well, and then that's when we were
that's
chatting, and we're like, hey, let's start something up,
yeah. No, and that's totally, I mean, talk about a too dumb to quit moment. Like, in dealing with all that, you're like, nah, let's start something new. It's let's ride. And that's, I think that's something of, whether it's, I think, people look at you, be like, are you delusional? Like, why would you take something safe? I remember my father, REP, even, like, the business successful, do it well, starting, like, because it was lean, it was, we started from nothing, and, like, we put everything we had, and then lost that as well, and you had to, a couple times, maybe, even if we're being real honest, and had to work our way back. And I remember, my first name was like, he was, he was retired from the military, and he put, combined 25 years between the Air Force and National Guard, Army Reserves. He did a smart thing. He did that, and he was able to get the benefits, and the pension, the good health care. from doing that, you know, and a lot of people do that. And he was just like, you know, you really got to do that. And and I was just like, and or those detractors, you know, you have that where it's coming from a place of care, and it's what he knows, what he knew. At the same time, it's like, that's not me. I can't do that. Like I never, you know, and
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's just not you, and it's not to say that path is not wrong either. It's a great path, and a lot
it's
of
a great
people.
path. It's a wonderful, like everybody has. I think that's something to celebrate, is that there is, you know, we are in a place, in a moment in time, in the right, you know, location where this is something you can do if you choose. You know, it's not, it's
Well, it's also
accessible.
that spirit, right? You got.
Yeah.
I mean, I thinking back when I was at that big company, you know, I came up with this training program. So this company lived on basis points. That's how tight their margins were. And I came up with this training program, um, that they were making double digit percentage revenue. Like after all the costs and everything else, and
Yeah.
I bring it up to the senior VP, not even interested. It's like, and I proved it. I proved it with a customer too. I had revenues attached to it. The whole
Yeah.
bit. Like,
And
and
once
that
you
was part
do
of my.
that,
That the timing was perfect looking back, because that's when I had this opportunity come up, and I was like, you know what?
I'm
What
taking
a
my talents elsewhere.
stifling of my entrepreneur energy, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's that basis points, and you're talking like another foreign language. Like, oh, I don't want to deal with that mess. But also, it's something like, once I mean, it would have a shelf life. You could sell it to, you know, multiple people. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You're able to sell it again and again and again, and still make that same margin once it's, you know. And if you're making margin on the first one, it keeps on going.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just goes to show the corporate structure. You're in a
Yeah.
big,
And, you know, no knock on them, no knock on the VP, but,
yeah,
you know, because they had their business, they wanted to stay in their
it's
lane,
focus.
you know, and that's the way some businesses want to run. I think, though, it was an, uh, an epiphany for me that, hey, I've got a lot of cool ideas. I can make shit happen.
Yeah,
And I need to be in an environment where I can do that stuff, you know?
and you got to create it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to create it yourself.
Yeah.
That's that's a great moment to wrap it up on. I think that's very insightful of the journey, and, you know, sharing some real personal stories. It's not all rose glasses and champagne and fireworks. It's a lot of the time when you're reflecting on it, it was like some battle scars. There's some real challenges, and some great stories, and camaraderie along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
it's been
I
fun.
mean, it's, you can look back at anything, and I think it's really easy to look at the bad times, but if you take the timeline, the good times, there's a lot more of them, you
Yeah,
know?
and you learn from everything, and you know what? You're not gonna you're going to always want to, um you know, I think the natural state of people is to default towards the risk, the negative, because I think we're like inherently wired that way for survival,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when you start going against those survival instincts, maybe in certain situations, you know, and everybody has a different path, different journey, different story. But I think that's something where decide what you want, what kind of life you want to create.
No, I tell you, the true Huckalero, if you will, is somebody that doesn't ever ask the what if question. You just go and do it, you know?
Just
'Cause
doing
if
it. Yeah.
if
What
you
if,
ask the what ifs too many times, you
yeah,
won't
that's
do it.
that, and then again, that's like the Leroy Jenkins meme. You know, that guy was
Right.
just like going on it. Jon, thank you for making this, these first episodes of Huckaleros. And, we're just scratching the surface with some of these stories that, I thought of a couple more. I'll drag you back on to, just from talking about it. I thought it's the ones that were adjacent, and I definitely
Yeah, there's some
want
cool ones.
to get mine around
I
to
was thinking
talk
like
about a couple of those as well. But
the timing is pretty good with the world events, but we, that Bahrain that project we did. We'll have to do that in another podcast.
oh yeah, totally. That would be a good one. And hey, there you go, cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Everyone, hit up Developer Squad, add Jon on LinkedIn, and if you wanna come on the pod and talk about the time that you were too dumb to quit, to at Huckaleros on X. Thank you.
Peace.